we are going to move on to curriculum, which is the highlight of the day. This is Kendra. She is with the district, and she is an intervention coach, and she's been with the district for over 20 years. So good. Okay.
All right. And really quick, while we just do a little switching around here on the presentation, can I just have you turn to, we call it an elbow partner, and it might be a pair or a group of three, whatever works out best. And can you just really quick introduce yourselves and share what brought you to volunteering in Ravenswood? We'll take about 30 seconds. Thank you. I just did my little chime. That's my go-to. It's kind of a universal thing. I thought that people, you'll find with educators or in crowds that need your attention, we'll just like raise our hand and then everybody like mimic that and pretty soon. So again, welcome and thank you on behalf of the district. I just really want to express how grateful we are to have so many partners supporting our reading intervention. And you might hear the term, I forgot to actually put it in the slides, but I remembered as I was listening this morning, you might hear the term UT2T, that is our Universal Tier 2 Intervention time, which is when you as volunteers will be pushing into the classrooms to support. As was shared, so my name is Kendra Gragg, and I say in my heart, I will always be an 8th grade ELA teacher. That's what I did for many, many years. I started in the district over 20 years ago. I have since moved into various roles. I'm doing reading intervention, instructional coaching, and I'm actually stepping into a new role this year. I've always been middle school, 6th through 8th grade. This year I'm supporting our craft site, so I will ask for a little bit of grace because elementary and the little ones, that is new to me, so I will be practicing alongside you all. And yeah, today we're going to be going over some basic routines, and we're calling these reteach routines from our SIPPS program, okay? So we'll get into more details. I know you have a lot of stuff in front of you, and we will go over each of those items in practice. So our agenda for today, we did some welcome and intros and your important volunteer information. We are going to do a quick connector, ground ourselves in the science of reading, and then we'll do an overview of the SIPPS curriculum and program. We're going to zero in on specific routines for sight words, rereading a story, and fluency practice, which are the 3 target areas or routines that you all will be utilizing. And I know there's a few people in here that will be supporting an entire full SIPPS lesson, so we're going to do another additional training if you fall into that category. And then we'll talk about some logistics and next steps and close out and do some feedback at the end. And I'll try to do a little break in between, like a quick bathroom break, but please take care of you're all adults, take care of your needs, bathroom, water, all of those things as needed. So we are a little more crowded, so I was going to have us move around a bit, but instead I'm going to be flexible here. Just to do a quick, find out who's in the room, can I just see a show of hands who this is your first time volunteering with RCP? All right. Can we give them a little bit of a And if you have volunteered with RCP for 2 years, okay. More than 2 years? 3 years? 4 years? 5? 7? 10? More than 10? All right. All right, so welcome to the new folks, and if you've been with us again, thank you. I want to just kind of ground us a little bit in learning to read. So we are going to do a partner talk here again. But if you could just think for a moment, think back to your experience learning to read. What did that look like for you? What did that feel like? Maybe you have very specific memories in a classroom or at home. maybe it was just something that, came naturally, and you don't really remember actually being explicitly taught. So just kind of think for a moment. And then if you could, again, with your same elbow partner or groups, just share a little bit about what was that experience like for you, learning to read. It's research-based ladder reading. Some of you may have seen it before. I know it might be a little bit difficult to see there in the back, but as you look at this and thinking about the different experiences in the room with learning to read, does anybody have a noticing? Can anybody share out anything that you're noticing here from the ladder? Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
What do you see? Yeah.
For the majority of people, reading just doesn't come like that.
Good. Could you guys hear that in the back? Can you say that one more
For the
time?
majority of people, reading doesn't just come naturally, like
Correct.
it's not spontaneous.
Correct. And we know this through the research. The science of reading tells us our brains are actually not hardwired for reading the same way they are for like language learning. And so, as you shared, the majority of people actually need that structured literacy approach, and it is essential in order to learn to read, in order to break that code. And you may notice too that there's no harm to others, right? That the rest of, so our 35% here and our 5% here are also advantaged by a structured literacy approach. We do know, and some of you may fall into this category, that reading just kind of came naturally, it was easy, and maybe you don't remember having that explicit instruction. But there is an advantage to all to the structured literacy approach. And reading is actually the most studied area of human learning. And so to ground us again in that science of reading, and I know this looks kind of complicated. This is Scarborough's Road. How many people have maybe seen this if you were to training before? Anybody? Okay. Or any teachers in here or former teachers who may be familiar with this? So this is a way to kind of visualize all of the different elements and skills that go into that need to get weaved together, that our brains are utilizing at the same time to become skilled, fluent readers. And you're coordinating all of those different skills. Okay. And you'll see it's kind of broken up into two categories. There's the language comprehension piece, which is, and you may see this in some of the classrooms outside of UT2T time, that back background knowledge building, the vocabulary building, getting into language structure, verbal reasoning, literacy knowledge. That is happening in the classrooms. That is not the key focus of our intervention time. Okay, during the intervention time, we are really zeroing in on the word recognition piece. Okay, SIPPS does cover the phonological awareness piece. For this group in this training, we are not focusing on that. We are really zeroing in on the decoding and the sight recognition. Okay, so when we're talking about decoding, that's alphabetic principle, that's spelling, sound, correspondence. And I made a note to myself because I'm realizing this may be new for some people. It's really, you can think of it as translating written words into spoken language. Okay, that's the decoding piece. It's the sound symbol meaning the letters. Okay, it's that sound letter correspondence, and it's that ability to see a word, see a written word, see those symbols, and break that up into the sounds, identify the sounds, and blend them together. Question?
Do kids that come from a bilingual background, does it complicate any of this? Whereas some letters are pronounced differently in another language than they are in English?
Yes and no. So a couple things I'll just touch on really quickly. Because we do have actually a dual language program in our district, but none of volunteers right now are at that particular school. The research actually shows that learning the two languages side by side and learning actually the word recognition pieces side by side is helpful. So I mean, complicated, but it is. You could do two at the same time. There's also a lot of research showing that the literacy skills transfer to a new language. So you could look at it both ways. But yeah, the latest research is showing that learning side by side, the two languages is most beneficial. Excuse me. And then sight recognition is really that automatic recognition of, you might hear sight words or high frequency words. These are the ones that students really should have memorized and they know automatically. You don't have, it's like when you, somebody explained it to me before, if you've learned to drive a car, right? Like think back to when you first learned, you have to think which one is the brake and which one is the gas and where do I put my hands and where do I look in the blinker, right? And then after much practice, it just becomes automatic. Like when I'm driving a car now, I don't think about which one is gas, which one is brake. So we want that same thing with the reading. We want it to become automatic. And the sight words are those high frequency words, the words that we see most often. In the reading, we want kids to have those memorized. And I did them recently too. I think I just kind of naturally maybe did this as a teacher, but I did learn recently that the expectation is that students, when it comes to sight words, that they should know what they mean as well. So that is a way to sometimes insert some of the language comprehension. And as I said, we're really trying to get to a place where this is automatic. Okay, we're going for that automaticity. And then at a maybe even larger level, really outside of the science of reading and the research, in Ravenswood we look at reading as a civil right, and we know that lives depend on literacy. It is that important, and again, which is why we're so thankful to have you all to help us in this effort. All right, which brings us to SIPPS. So when we are talking about that, needing that systematic, explicit literacy instruction, this is our adopted curriculum. Some of you I think will, and correct me if I'm wrong, Angie and Susan, some of you will have binders, some of you may have, I like to call these the bootleg binders. Okay. So you may have a bootleg binder, and we can also make the full binders and lessons available to you online as well. And I think they might already be in one of the resources. So there are several different levels. It is all covering foundational skills, really focusing, again, on the word recognition strategies, the fluency, the decoding, and like I said, yeah, getting us to that goal of readers who read accurately and automatically. Real quick here, we don't need to go too much into this, but as far as the levels, this group here, you'll be doing, from my understanding, beginning as well as extension. Just so you know, if you ever, if we ever grow in that direction, or depending on the grade level, there is SIPPS Plus, which is developmentally for the older students, 4th grade and above. And it's basically just a condensed version and developmentally appropriate version of beginning and extension. But they're both covering the foundational skills. And then when you get into SIPPS Challenge, this is getting more into the multisyllabic words and the more towards like 2nd grade skills. All right, and then within the SIPPS program, regardless of level, these are the basic elements and routines that you will find. The phonological awareness, the phonics, right, really that decoding piece, sight words, and in the upper levels, it's sight syllables. Reading a story, so that like the guided practice, guided spelling, and then the more individual fluency practice, where students really have that opportunity to mostly read aloud until they're ready for silent reading and get that individual feedback. Okay, so out of those routines, your groups are really gonna just zoom in on 3 of those, okay? And this year, and it may be different. How many of you, sorry if I already asked this, have actually done SIPPS lessons before? Okay, so quite a few. So this may be a shift. It may be the same, it may be a shift from your previous experience. Again, rather than teaching the whole lesson, the volunteers are going to be doing what we're calling a reteach, and it's really just getting the students that additional practice, or more like sometimes more at-bats, with content that the instructors, that the classroom teachers and aides have already taught. Okay, so, and that's why just a slight little detail here, I've crossed out new, because in theory you should not be introducing any new material. You're just doing the practice and the reteach of material that students have already seen. Okay, so that may be a shift from your previous experience. Sorry, I don't have my clicker doesn't work with this one. So this here is just kind of a little cheat sheet of what your 30-minute small group instruction may look like. So we always just recommend that you have a warm welcome. Okay, just take a few minutes at the beginning to connect with the students, check in, how are they doing? You know, if you work with especially the younger kids before, they like to just expand that into talking about their puppy for 20 minutes. Okay, it's always the puppy. So try to keep it pretty tight, right? But you can build that into your routine. Yeah.
Are you going to share this presentation because I'm not taking any notes?
Yes, and I apologize. I got it. I got it to our leaders very late at night or early in the morning, depending on how you look at it. But yes, this will be shared with you, and it should have been shared ahead of time. I apologize for that. But yes, this will be shared with you, and also in I think that the main folder that they'll have as a resource. Yeah. Okay, so quick check-in with students. Then you go right into the sight words review for about, and these are approximate, right, 10 to 15 minutes. You're going, and we'll go over all of this. You're going to review the sight words, okay, and these will be, we're going to practice this, so you'll have sight word cards, either like the actual SIPPS curriculum ones or bootleg copies of sight words. And then we're also going to have you do some dictation of sight words. where you read it, and the students will spell it out on their little whiteboards. Then you'll move into rereading a story. For the beginning level, it's always choral reading. For the extension level, it sort of progresses from choral reading to like whisper reading out loud, and then eventually they move into individual reading. And then ending that time with the fluency practice. Again, students are either, depending on where they're at, and assessments that the teachers will be regularly monitoring. They are whisper reading individually, and you're listening in, or silently reading, and you're providing that feedback. Okay, so that's sort of the general structure, and we'll go through each routine, what that looks like. Yeah.
Can you explain a little more of what choral reading means?
Yeah, choral reading means you lead it, and the group is reading it all together. Yeah,
And
in
you
like
read
one
too.
voice, we say.
And the teacher reads, and you're reading too.
Correct.
At the
Although
same
we'll
time?
see, yeah,
It's like a chorus.
we'll see, and we'll watch some videos here. There are, so you'll sort of drop off from that as the students become more fluent or proficient. And we'll go through each one, and we'll see videos. Other questions just on the kind of basic structure outline? And I think as was mentioned earlier, and I know this has come up before, these times are approximate, especially in the beginning where students may not have as many sight words built up or as many stories that they've read. You may have some minutes left over at the end, and there is the opportunity to like do a little, 5 minutes of a fun activity, a coloring page, draw something from the story that we read. There are those little opportunities there. Okay, and then one thing that I really, really, really want to emphasize with SIPPS, because we're really trying to be consistent with that explicit instruction. We really want to make sure that as much as possible, your instruction or your reteach is using the exact same routine from the curriculum that the teachers are using in their initial teaching of the material. So we want to use the same prompts, the same cues, the same hand movements, because we're really trying to build and reinforce those like neural pathways. So we want to make sure, and same thing with the error correction. So for every routine that you're doing, there is a specific error correction. Okay, so if you're doing sight words, here's how you do the sight words, and here's how you do the correction if a student makes a mistake on those. Okay, so we want to pay close attention to both the instructional routine and the error correction routine. And we want to make sure that the instruction is clear, consistent, again, not just between you and your group, but thinking about your team of volunteers that will be working in that classroom, as well as consistent with the teacher as well. That it's concise, so really one of the things they say is think about economy of language, okay, keep it really tight, really concise, and it almost always produces a choral response, so one voice all together. And you can think of this as, like I said, we're training their brains, okay, and creating those the neural pathways so it becomes automatic. All right, so are there questions about that before I move into the next section? Maybe let's just do a really quick turn and talk. Is there any question brewing in your brain or one thing you've learned? Talk with your partner. our packets, which I'll explain, but a quick side note.
Yeah, so I did want to mention, in case you're wondering what SIPPS approach your classroom will be doing.
I might have scared some people.
Yeah, I know. No, so the only class doing like full SIPPS beginning lessons, like the entire lesson, is Kinder at Bellhaven. And they won't be starting it right away. You'll be starting with seeds and then you'll transition over to the full SIPPS lesson, but we'll be doing another training with you in case you want, it's a really small group, it's just you guys. So yeah, in case you want the full lesson. And then for other classrooms, Kinder and first grade will only be doing SIPPS beginning, no extension. In second grade, Farak will be doing one group beginning, one group extension.
And actually, maybe I should explain really quick why this is important.
Yeah.
So in front of you, and I hope I got it right, if not, we have some extras floating around. So if you are, so there's 2 different packets, okay, and you can have both of you. So if you are doing beginning, then you want to look at the beginning packet, and I think towards the back, I might have left both, depending on if you're doing beginning or extension. So you want to have the right packet.
Does that make sense?
Both are beginning only.
There's only beginners?
Okay, I have some more extension
Okay.
ones.
Yeah, so Miss Farak's class, one group's beginning, one group's extension. Miss Barnett's class, both groups are beginning. In third grade, Miss Barrera's class is only extension. And that's it for Bellhaven. For Castano, second grade, Miss Villalobos' class is doing just extension. Miss Marty's class is just extension. Miss Bloomquist's class is just beginning. And that's it. Okay, does that make sense? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
And there's more extension. Susan has more extension pockets. Okay, so we are going to take a moment here. With your packet, your routines packet, you are going to find the correct page for your sight words routine. 488 in the beginning packet and 407 in the extension packet. And if you could just take a moment, and then we will go through it and we'll see some examples, and just read through that routine and the prompts and cues that it shows, as well as the correction. I believe it says review. It starts at review sight words.
The extension 407 is the extension. 48. But it just shows you the.
488 for beginning.
So you're just like.
And 407 for
And then you say
extension.
the student will right? Then you read it as they read. And so you still find the words. Point to left or spell, and they spell it.
And you're just gonna, so for right now, we're just gonna read through it silently.
Teach us how to do what the teacher does. We're mimicking the teacher. So we're just listening at the routine. This is how we interact with the student. So we're going to show the student and say, I, point to the left, word you, read. So you say to the student, read. And then as they read it, you go, word. And then you say to the student, point to the left, spell. And then R-O-W-O. They do it. You're just doing it, pointing and telling them to read, spell. You don't pronounce words. Yes. No, you don't. You spell them. So it's just. Say, but read.
Like I was doing the first grade remedial. This was, that
And
was.
what gets simple is when you do it, the same word, the same kids. Because you're like, okay, you just read it. So like that is always what you have to time. Just, I mean, It was one time that wanted us over here. So I had to take the kids
Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to take a look at the sight words routine, specifically the review of the sight words, and I was clarifying, but I'll just say again, so you're not, other than one group, which may move into that, this group of volunteers is not teaching a full SIPPS lesson, okay? Any sight words, stories that they'll read, they would have already gotten that first round of instruction from their teacher or instructional aide, and then this is the additional practice, okay, the additional at-bats. So that's why it's slightly different, because you're reviewing the words versus introducing the words, but there's not a ton of difference there, okay? So I do want us to actually, we're gonna watch a video of a teacher actually modeling the sight word review routine.
Read. The.
I don't want to blow out anybody's ears. Okay, let's see if that works. If you can't hear it in the back, let me know.
T-H-E.
Is that okay for sound?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning here.
Read.
The.
Spell.
T-H-E.
Read.
The.
Read.
I.
Spell.
Capital I.
Read.
I.
Read.
Say.
The word is see. Read.
C.
Spell.
S-E-E.
Read.
C.
Spell.
S-E-E.
Read.
C.
Read.
U.
Spell.
Y-O-U.
Read.
U.
Read.
Can.
Spell.
C-A-N.
Read.
Can.
Read.
C.
Spell.
S-E-E.
Read.
C.
Okay, can anybody call out their routine that we saw? It's read, spell, read, right? So read it, spell it, read it again, and always with the, and this will become part of all the routines, even during reading a story, right? Fingers here, and you're sweeping it across this way. Did anybody catch the correction routine there?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody want to describe the correction routine?
The word is.
Yeah, so a kid said, I think, say instead of see, or it was unclear. So then she immediately, the word is see, and then went into read, spell, read. And did you catch too that she, and this is a reason why I want to highly, highly, highly recommend that you use the cards versus a lot of teachers you will see use the slides. The cards, I find personally, when I did SIPPS with the middle schoolers, it's easier to go fast. I would just do it right there for me on the overhead, on the dot pan. And then you can, the ones that students, they know, they've got it down, you've done it numerous times, that goes in one pile. The ones that students need more practice on, I'm going to keep that in rotation until essentially the group has mastered it. So I want to especially since you'll be sharing students, that's a quick way to know from day to day which words the group has mastered and which ones may need more practice. So I'll just show an example here. So when I would organize myself, this was just kind of my whole deck of sight words. I kept it here. And then I would have a packet, and you could, it could be an envelope or packet of the words that have built up. So if I'm on lesson, 20, these are all my sight words from lesson 1 through 20 here. And then I should have some of this one here. And then the ones that are in my current rotation that are newer, or we're still working on because the group has not mastered, those go in my in progress packet. So that's an easy suggestion.
The only problem with that is you have two different groups that are working on two different levels. So I found that when I would come in, that things would be kind of jumbled up because it was like, oh wait, that other group, and then, so sometimes.
Because it's the same deck?
It's the same deck. So that would work great if you have two groups the same level. I've never had that.
Or two decks.
Or two decks.
Two decks.
I ended up making my own cards and leaving them in there so that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we could definitely have access to more bootleg decks of cards.
That would be really
Needed.
helpful.
And
And then they could be labeled for group 1 and group 2.
Yeah,
you see.
yeah. Great point, yeah.
I noticed that these cards do not have the arrow on the front, but your cards have an
Yeah,
arrow
so
on the back.
that's just this is because these ones are extension, so as you move up in the levels, there is slightly less prompting and cueing. So these happen to be extension just because that's what was available out there. I had the plus. Also on the real cards, you will see that there is a sample sentence. So if we want to insert, again, we don't want to go too far off of the reteach routine, but those are available on the back. And when we do the dictation, it's helpful to have the sentence too. If you have the bootleg ones, you just have to think of a sentence on the fly. Yeah. So it's just because these are the slightly higher level. Other questions on that one?
So when you have three kids, are these very similar level?
Correct.
They are very similar. Okay.
Yeah. And I should say too, I mean, there may be some movement throughout the year as some students maybe go at a quicker pace or some students may need to be regrouped. So yes, you should typically have students that are at a similar instructional level.
Yeah, I was wondering if there are any like correct pronunciations that we can refer to. So I didn't go up here, so I think my accent's not quite right. So I kind of I want some reassurance that I'm teaching them the right thing.
Yes, that's a great point, and I can maybe we can make a note to add that into a resource folder. There are videos available of all of the SIPPS sound pronunciations, as well as, I don't know if we have it all complete for extension. I will look into that, but yes, there are videos available pronouncing all of the sight words. And it's actually really cool. One of our teachers, if you know Miss Thompson, actually two of our teachers, Miss Thompson at Castano and Kim at Belhaven, they actually started doing their own videos, and there's QR codes that students can, that we can share with you, but also they did that for students to also get some additional hits and practice at home, right? Same thing, because you may have multilingual learners and whatnot, so yeah, so there definitely are videos available. So thank you for bringing that up.
They're the same.
So we'll make sure that you get access to them. Okay, are we ready? Oh, I lost my slide deck. All right, so we are actually going to jump into some practice here. The routine would look like, typically, you prepare your sight word card for all the previously taught lessons. And just a note, after beginning lesson 30, you don't necessarily review all the sight words every single day. Then you narrow it down to like 15 to 20. That would be during a SIPPS lesson. You could expand that because you have a little more time with the kids. But you do want to narrow that down after beginning lesson 30. If the students miss a word, they haven't mastered it, keep that in the deck, in the rotation for several days in a row until they've mastered it. We're using the read, spell, read routine quarterly, and then the correction, as we saw, the word is blank, read, spell, read. Okay, so we're gonna jump into some practice in maybe groups of 4, 3, 4, depending if you're a group of. Okay, so we can figure out groups that are roughly, and you're going to take turns actually being the teacher and the rest of the group. You're going to be the students, okay? And let's go easy at first. Just we have these down, and then maybe we'll move into a student here there make an error so that we can practice the correction routine. Okay, you have decks of cards on your table, and you can split those up if you want to make a smaller group. And we'll take about 5 minutes. Sorry, go ahead. Thank you. And I know every single person maybe did not get a chance. I am just doing a quick time check because I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit here so we can get through all of our routines, which means we're going to just keep going straight through back and break, but please, if you need to, take care of your own personal needs. But I am going to move us into our next piece, still working with the sight words, and this is going to be the sight word dictation. Okay. So for this one, you guys are actually going to help me put together a few things here in a moment. Actually, let's go through the routine first. So in your packet, beginning is page 495, and extension is 411. If you could just take a moment to read through quickly the dictation of sight words routine. You're not doing the whole guided spelling, just the section that says dictation of sight words. And hopefully I have this page. Okay, let's go ahead and bring it back together here. So just to kind of highlight the pieces of the routine. So for this one, you would want to have whiteboarded markers for each student, and I always use the bootleg ones in my classroom. Okay. You can put cardstock in there just for a little more structure. But you don't have to do this yet. I just want to show. We're going to use these ones, so you could have these in front of students. The smaller lines are for the extension, and the larger ones for beginning. Okay. You don't have to do it yet. I'll just go through. Let me just go through the routine, and then we'll practice it. You also want to ensure that students have access to their sight word dictionary. It will also say, if you're in a room where the word wall, like if the teacher has sight words posted and available, you can refer to that. And so you'll see in the instructions, it says like, remind them to, look at the word wall. In case that's not easily accessible or available, the last page, hopefully in your packet, I believe it's the last page, should have the sight word dictionary, and we'll make sure you have access to it as well. Okay. So they can have the sight word dictionary word wall like you want them to be looking at the words and referring to it, and you can even point to it as needed if we need to do a correction. Okay, so that's sight word dictionary or word wall. You can kind of use it to that. Okay, so you want to make sure they have access to that. Then we'll see in the video, they're going to say the word and use it, the teacher, so you are going to say the word, use it in a sentence, prompts the students to say the word orally. Again, remind them to use their sight word dictionary if needed. You're going to point to the line, and you're going to say write, can, or whatever the sight word is. And then You're going to prompt the students to read and spell as I write. And the teacher models it while the students are saying it out loud. Okay, we'll see the video on this. So look for those parts of the routine. And then if a student misspells a sight word, you're going to actually point it out in their sight word dictionary and have them make that correction. Okay? So let's watch the little video and then I'll do questions. My sound is still on.
Now you will write a sight word. Your. Your book is right there. Say your.
Your.
Where can you find your if you are not sure how to spell it?
In the sight word dictionary.
Put a check by the word in the dictionary if you needed to look it up. Write your. Read and spell what you wrote as I write it.
Your. Y-O-U-R.
Now you will write a sight word.
Okay, so pretty quick and simple, and you would only do this with a few sight words a day. Maybe it's the ones that they've struggled on a bit more, or if you only have a little bit of time, like ones they've mastered, just so the practice, you're only going to do a few each day. Okay, 5 questions. Like some of the faces are looking.
That would be referring to kindergarten, because that's a little too much.
Correct. Again, you'll have access to the full lesson, so if that piece is not included yet in the lesson, then you wouldn't do that part, especially for the kinders. Okay, any questions? Okay, so we're gonna jump into some quick practice. I don't know, again, we'll take turns being the teacher and the student, and you are gonna have to do a little bit of work here for me to just get your whiteboards ready. You should be able to slip a spelling page into the wannabe whiteboard, and you have markers available as well. Thank you. I know that practice was really quick, but I am noticing the time and I want to get through the rest of our routines. A few just notes that are coming up that I wanted to highlight throughout your little packet there, as well as in the actual binders. You will see little QR codes for each routine that will link you directly to these videos too. So you can, because I know we're going kind of fast and it's not a ton of time. So in all your free time, feel free to watch and study those videos. They should be pretty easily accessible there from the QR code. They're embedded in the presentation as well, which you'll get, but just for easy access, if you want to just have it on your phone or something, those QR codes are there. And then just really quick, so I don't forget, I should have mentioned this earlier, a question came up about when there is a word with an apostrophe, a contraction. We're not going into the whole lesson around, don't, and do not, and all that, but they should, the students should say, when they're spelling it, they actually say apostrophe. Okay, so just like a little side note there.
One comment about sight.
Yeah.
Just last year, because one group transitioned to sight words, we bought probably 10 or 15 games. So we'll tell you where they are, but if you're finding you have extra time, we'll tell you where to get them. You could do like a sight word game or a hangman game or something like that. And then we will have to figure this out with Kendra, but if we want 2 decks per classroom, and if we don't have these, it might be something that we ask one of you to look into index cards and Sharpies, and you would make them.
Sure.
And you can just, make them as you do them. Someone would have to do the heavy lift of, say, doing the first 21 lessons. And if you do that, we'll write you about this, but if you do that, put the lesson on it, because if you make your own, just put the lesson on it, because it gets, okay, just put that in the back of your mind.
Okay, and then we are going to move into our next routine, which is for us rereading a story, because these will all be text sentences for the most part, unless you're late extension level. These will all be texts that the students have seen before, read before, and this is, again, just the additional practice, okay? For the beginning level, the text come from this booklet, Reproducible Practice Reading Stories, okay? And you will either have this or copies of it, okay? Don't tell about all the copyright laws that we're breaking, okay? So these are the beginning stories. You may see in the classroom, and I apologize I didn't bring one, these same stories are also in what the kids call, what they have small books. So if you've done beginning before, it's the exact same text. You may have access to the small books, okay? It's the same exact text that is in this booklet here. For extension, the text comes from this storybook packet, okay? And it's basically various chapters, several chapters in one story at a time, okay? So you will have access to that as a reproducible as well.
Could you just open this?
Yeah.
And show you what these.
Yeah, and you actually have a copy. You should have a copy. And actually, for the beginning, we are going to ignore, you see this here, okay? We're going to skip that one for now. So you should have a copy of one in front of you. Kickball for beginning, and for extension is our third dish.
Look at that subscription.
If you need are you guys looking for an extension one? There's extra extension.
No, it's just the reader. He's just these.
Yeah, you just have to So we're going to take a moment to just familiarize ourselves with the routine. So in your packet, if you could look in your packet, beginning level, you're going to look on page 491 and read through that routine. And extension level, you're going to find page 413 and take a moment silently to just read through the routine. So for beginning, it's stories with decodable words, that's the routine, and then for extension, reading decodable stories is your routine. few people are still reading through the routine. Just take a few more seconds to read through that, and then I want to do a few highlights up here.
Can I just say that you say each sentence is read twice? With the kindergarten, that's 2 hours. I think that's because I take
Yes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring us up front here to just kind of highlight some of the key elements of each routine, and we will watch videos for this. And again, you have these videos available to you. And I will say this is where the two levels really kind of start to diverge. Okay, so if your extension, it really does sort of vary by lesson. For beginning, it's mostly the same throughout, except in the very beginning, especially with kinders, beginning of the year. Okay, so for the beginning level, the routine is reading each sentence twice, chorally, and you'll see in the lesson, there's a first read and a second read. For the decodable words, so those are essentially the ones that you can sound it out, okay? You're prompting students to sound each letter and then read the word. So it's sound by sound and then blending. For sight words, and those are underlined, you're just prompting them to read, sweeping under the word, and we'll see this in the video, because those are the ones they should have memorized. Okay, so that's a big distinction to just keep in mind. For the ones that can sound it out, it's sound, read, and then you blend it. For the sight words, it's just read. They should know those ones automatically. On the second read, you prompt students at the beginning of the sentence to read, and then you're sweeping, I'm going the wrong way, right? You're sweeping under the words as they read orally. And I think this addresses a question came up earlier too about when you're chorally reading with them and when they are just reading chorally. For the correction, for sight words, you just say the word and then go back to the start of the sentence and read the whole sentence again. Same thing with decodables, you model blending the sounds quickly and go back to the beginning of the sentence. Okay? And we'll see that, we're gonna watch actually both videos. For decoding in the extension level, decodable stories, you'll notice it kind of progresses as the lessons go on. They start off with some choral reading for the first part of the story, and then they move into individual reading out loud. I call that whisper reading, so you'll see in here a lot of times I say whisper reading. They're whispering, they're reading out loud, but it's just quietly for you to listen and to them together for this. When you move into lesson 16 and above, the students can whisper read the whole story aloud to themselves. And there's comprehension questions built in. You will see that in the lessons. There's decoding support. I should have said this first. This just sort of frames it, points out some of the harder parts. And then there's comprehension questions after. If students make an error, tell them the word and have them reread the sentence. And then beyond lesson 23, this is where students are transitioning into individualized daily reading, or really more the silent reading. So we'll work out with your sites and the teachers the specific trade books or level library books that they will use for that, because after lesson 23, it's not from the readers, the decodable readers. Okay. So I know that was a lot. Let's watch the videos here, and hopefully it'll make a little more sense. So we're going to start with the beginning routine.
This story is called The Mat. A mat is something you sit on the floor.
Beginning level.
Read. Sound.
Mat.
Read.
Mat.
Read.
Mat.
Read.
I.
Sound.
Sat.
Read. Together, sound. Sat.
That was her correction.
Read.
Sat.
Read.
On the
Sound.
mat.
Read.
Mat.
Read.
I sat on the mat.
Okay, so I noticed that the students are reading chorally, the teacher's prompting, but not reading with them. Okay, and so that was beginning, and then we'll watch the extension here.
Chapter 2 of The Firefighters tells how the firefighters put out a fire. Read the title quietly to yourself. Read.
The Firefighters, Chapter 2, Fire at a Store.
Read the first sentence quietly to yourself. Read.
This time the fire was at a store.
Read the second sentence quietly to yourself. Read.
With horns honking, the trucks rushed into the parking lot.
Okay, so you see the slight difference there in the routines. And again, in each lesson, which you will have copies of this, and we will work out at the sites the exact communication strategy of how you will know which lesson exactly your teacher is on and which lesson your groups are on. So there's different little tips and hints within each lesson for the decoding piece. Questions before we jump in and try and get out?
You know, in that video, it looked like she had a big clipboard. And that those, you know, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it
stories
does
like
come
this
with
were
the
in
posters, and Susan or Angie, correct? I don't think volunteers have access to the posters, I could be wrong.
No.
So you would just have the regular page size one.
Some classrooms do, but you have to kind of see, like, you have to look for them.
Okay.
But
So I wouldn't
I
count.
wouldn't count on it, but you can always look around. I have used them.
And we were talking earlier, I know this has come up in the past with, and some of you have probably experienced students, because these are repeated readings, right? So sometimes we will have students like, I don't want to read it again, or I don't want to do it. So I'd be curious to hear if anybody has tips and tricks that you've used with students before. One of the things, you know, you can just remind them too, like this helps our brain grow, this is good brain exercise, it makes our brain stronger. When we practice the story more, you can also, you know, incentivize a little bit. Okay, when we read, after we read this story, you know, 2 times, or once we finish the story, then maybe they get to some of the games or the, you know, doing the coloring or drawing from something in the story. So you may have to use a few little bag of tricks to keep them motivated, because these are repeated readings, okay? The students should read the current story that they're on, or close to it. You may be like a lesson or 2 behind from what I'm hearing, and that's fine. And they can read stories from any of the prior lessons, okay? They would have a packet. You just don't want to go beyond the lesson that the teacher is on.
So when we're first starting, the first week or 2, we're
Yeah.
not going to know, we're jumping into like lesson 11 or whatever,
Correct.
right? So we don't even have, is there an efficient way that the tutors can figure out like what's a sight word versus a decodable, like what they already have done?
Yeah, so in your packet, and I think we may also share with you one that's maybe slightly less busy. In your packet, you have the scope and sequence it's towards the back, for either beginning or extension. And so it will show you all of the sight words from each lesson. You can kind of ignore the middle chunk there. Yeah, I should have said that in the beginning. So this is the comprehensive list of all the sight words that they would have prior to. actually and go together, and sometimes it's just a continuation of. So we're just gonna go right into the fluency routine, and hopefully we'll have like a minute or so to practice at the end. One really, really quick note I wanna make. For the first, I wanna say 11 lessons of the beginning level, there are, and we do not love this about the program, there are non-decodable, non-sight words like such as monkeys in the stories. The idea is they're trying to get the kids into reading connected text as quickly as possible. So you may see in the lessons, like you're prompting them to like look at the picture, or you're just giving it to them. Those are not habits that we want to build. We're actually trying to break some of those habits, read, told a story and all the workshop stuff if you're interested, or listen to the podcast, I should say. But if you notice that in your first few beginning lessons, that is the reason why they're trying to get them into connected text. I'm actually hoping by the time you guys jump in, they'll be past that, but we will see. But just a side note there. Okay, I am going to move us really, really quick into fluency. Okay, so we're not going to take the time to read through. The fluency routines are quite long. Okay, so you will want to take the fluency description, because it's less of a routine, it's slightly more individualized, the higher up you go. So you would want to read through the fluency piece in your lesson and your routine packet. The key things to consider at the beginning level, the students are whisper reading. The suggested amount is 3 times, but remember that's with the teacher, so for the reread, try as many as you can. And they whisper read the previous 2 stories. They can even go down lower than that if they're struggling, any previous lessons. And the focus in the beginning level is really on accuracy. So using those correction routines, we're not pushing them for their speed, for the reading rate. Okay? In extension, again, it sort of varies by which lessons you're on. They start off with the whisper reading. They transition into silent reading. When you're going into monitor, though, then they should whisper read it to you so you can monitor when you're listening in closely. And then lessons 24 through the end, they're silent reading from a level library, books that the teachers will provide, or a trade book. When you're monitoring, so for the, just to be clear, for the decodable text, reading a story, and the fluency practice, it's mostly the same text, okay? It's coming from the same readers, okay? It's just a matter of, are we doing it together, sort of guided, versus the more individual practice. And this is really the time where you are trying to individually listen in to each student. Try to get to each of them at least 1 minute per day, and giving them some feedback, either prompting, specific feedback, using some of the routines, praising when they're doing well. Again, focus on accuracy. We've talked about these routines. When it's a sight word, just give them the word. When it's a decodable, they're sounding it out. When they get to the extension level, this is when you can also start doing some, or when they're at the higher extension level, you can start doing some checks for understanding and actually ask, so you listen for a minute, and then you can ask them a comprehension question about that piece of the story. And I think, nope. And those are, you'll see some in your packet, and they are included in each lesson, which you would have a copy of. It'll have suggested comprehension questions for each story. Okay? If it's a trade book, you're going to have to just listen in and be like, oh, well, why did the character blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't know if we're going to get to a practice piece. And I really apologize, because I know we're going to do some logistics that, I don't know if Andrew or Susan, you want to speak to just general logistics. And then I am going to ask at the end, I'll go around and pass these out, if you could just, for feedback, do sort of a glow and grow or a plus delta, positive, something you learned, something you appreciate, and suggested changes, challenges, things like that. Okay? And we're going to post those up on your way out.
So I know it's a lot. We always feel this way when we come to SIPPS training. Luckily this year, for most of you, you're just doing a portion of the SIPPS lessons instead of the full-blown 6-step SIPPS lesson. So Susan and I will be in this room on Monday morning from 9 to 11. We'll have some other people. If you've got any additional questions, come to that. If you can't make that, we are always available. So feel free to reach out if it seems kind of overwhelming and you need a little more guidance, or if you just want to practice. We also can, Susan and I are happy to set up like time to meet with you if you can't come on Monday, to kind of practice the routines. It's really good to kind of try it out a little bit before you actually go in the classroom the week of the 29th. So having said that, if there's any other questions, Kendra just popped down the side, but if there's any other questions, raise your hand. We have a few minutes. We've got like 3 minutes, and we'll actually be sticking around after the session too, if you have any other burning questions that you want to get asked.
If you have one that you want us to follow up on, but you don't have time right now, go ahead and jot it on a post-it with your name, and we will get back to you. So on your way out, there's a section you could just put your post-it, a plus, a delta, and a question if you have one.
The other thing I want to mention really quickly, at the meet and greet next week, you'll actually get a list of who you'll be working with and what each group will be doing. So it'll say like, you know, group 1, you're going to have Angie and Susan, and you'll be doing the SIPPS beginning reteaching with them. Group 2, you'll have, you know, Jose, and you're going to be doing SIPPS extension. So you'll get the names of the students and what curriculum you'll be doing. You kind of have an idea of what curriculum now, but yeah. So SIPPS-wise, you'll find that out next week. So, and finally, I just want to thank Kendra. That was like,
really, again, so thankful to you all. This is not possible without you all. So again, we are very grateful as a district, at the sites. We highly depend on you, and thank you to our fabulous leaders that put in a ton of work to make this happen. Very, very grateful and appreciative. And maybe right before you leave, if you could just turn to your partner and say one thing you're excited about, or one thing you're taking with you, like 10 seconds, go. And then I believe we're 3 steps.
yes.